2, 1. And we're live, and we're about 12 minutes late. I do apologize. Technical difficulties. I'm working out new technology we're using. I think it's everywhere, even imprinted on the screen. We're using Be Live for this broadcast so that we don't have to be in the same place. So welcome to Fall in Love with Your Life. I am your host, Lauren Foster, and this is day 2. Yesterday, we spoke with Ed Bracey about spirit, about a need to be connected with our source, connected with the life force that beats our heart and that creates worlds and that created us. And today, my special guest is Rachel Gilmore, and we're going to talk about love. Hello, Rachel. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to talk with you about this topic. As you know, I'm so passionate about it. So thank you so much for having me here.
Love that this is a new connection. This is a perfect example of how we interact with one another in the world and the relationships that we form. And our big message today is that if you're going to live the full, awesome, abundant life that you just love every minute of, that's going to include relationships that are satisfying and deep and meaningful and intimate. And those start with your relationship with yourself. What I encounter a lot in my coaching business, when people come to me and they're ready to transform their lives and they're ready to make a change and they get to work on things, then they instantly start beating themselves up because they didn't get it done fast enough, and their paradigms come up, and their sense of unworthiness and being able to increase their sense of deserving becomes a big challenge for us as we're working together. So maybe we can start there, Rachel, with how with self-respect. What is your advice to increase our sense of worthiness, if that makes a good question?
Sure, absolutely. And you are breaking up just a little bit. So I'm really trying to pay attention and hang on to what you're saying, but I don't know if anybody else can share whether or not you're breaking up on their end too, or if it's just on my end. But yes, so let's get started on worthiness. I see Ed's here. Hey, Ed, can you just let us know if you're able to hear us clearly, please? That would be so wonderful if you could share that. So, for me, this was something that I worked really, really hard to reach a high level of success in my business. Success in terms of what the world would see as success. So financial, all of the things on the outside, right? And I was not fulfilled on the inside. And so when I came to a place in my life where I had some major health issues that forced me to close my business, I had to then go within and learn to love and value myself. And that was a whole process for me of trying to accomplish one thing and uncovering this whole new world of something that I never even knew existed. So terms like self-love, you should love yourself, all these things were brand new to me. I'd never heard them before. So at first there was a little bit of resistance for me, and I don't know if you have experienced this as well, but it was like, wow, is that wrong? Is that selfish? And all these things began to question for me. But the more that I dived deep into it, and the more that I studied, and the more I read, and the more I began to put things into practice, I began to see that I was peeling back these layers of what was fearful, and I was getting to my true source, which was love. And I don't really want to get ahead of myself. I think we're going to talk a little bit about forgiveness, but it wasn't until I started peeling back the layers of that fear of not being successful, or of being successful, or of not being perceived as being successful. All of these fears, as they began to peel back and peel away, and I could get to this source of me, of loving me, then a lot of those things didn't really matter anymore.
Okay, a lot of things matter. My audience is off. Rachel, is my audience? This is better. How about now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Better?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. You say those other things didn't matter. Remind me what you mean by those other things don't matter, didn't
Well,
matter.
so like the fear of not being good enough. Let's use that one as an example.
Ah, okay.
So worthy, being worthy and not being good enough are on opposite ends of the spectrum. So the closer I got to being worthy of loving myself and valuing myself and knowing my worth, the less that fear grip had a hold of me. So what the first step is to understanding and moving to this place of worthiness is having an awareness of where you're operating right now. If you're not operating in a state of I'm worthy, or I love myself, or I accept myself for who I am, then there is a fear. There's an ego fear. There's like your identity is associated with fear. So it's fear of not being good enough. It's fear of how am I being perceived? How are people looking at me? Am I successful enough? All of these things. So you're either in one place or the other. So when I began to get closer to that place of feeling worthy and of loving myself, then I could look back and say, oh my goodness, I have lived my entire life in fear. And so it's so important for me now. That's why I teach this, is that you don't have to stay in that place of fear, because that fear stops you from achieving your greatest fulfillment and success and love. It stops us from really living our lives. And most of us don't even have the awareness, as I didn't. I didn't have the awareness that I was living in a constant state of fear until I hit my knees when, with health problems, and I started looking for an answer, that I realized that my life was operated primarily by fear. And then I started taking the steps to change that for myself. And now that's what I love to help other people do, as you do as well. But it's an awareness of where you're operating from. What is controlling your life? Does that make sense? Did that answer your question?
Yes, it does. It makes absolute sense. And that is what we are working on all the time. Our paradigms that are not even ours, these patterns that we've learned throughout our lives to us by adults when we were children, our parents, our teachers, our peers, the society in general teaches us to ignore our own still small voice, ignore our own instincts, and to supplant our own needs really in favor of being and doing like everyone else and trying to match that. And when we do get to a point where we're becoming more self-aware and wanting to change that, that change is perceived by our brains as danger. Yeah. And our brain says, no. You might not like it here, but it's safe here. Yeah. It's comfortable here. And so that's what we are teaching. We're teaching people that here's our comfort zone. Here's where we live all the time. And then out here is our panic zone where, oh my God, we're going to freak completely out. But in the middle is this beautiful green growing zone where we are facing our fears and we're stepping outside of our comfort zone and we're allowing ourselves to grow and getting further and further into that grow zone every single day and reassuring ourselves each time along the way. And so now's a good time to get to forgiveness, because forgiveness is all wrapped up in that sense of worthiness. We all have things in our past that we wish we had done differently, that we wish we had showed up better for. And for yourself once for that it's something that you, and forgive others for things that you perceive were done to you through your life. When you're carrying around that baggage, it drags you down and keeps you from getting to the point where you're growing. So talk to us about your take on forgiveness. What kind of methods do you teach for people to forgive themselves and others?
Well, I think it starts with this place of coming to understanding that you need to have more self-love. When you get to a place where you are actively moving outside of that comfort zone, because you just talked about this comfort zone, and outside of the comfort zone, if we're living primarily in fear and love is outside of that comfort zone, then getting to love is going to be dangerous to our brains, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to push through and we have to do things. And so we have to retrain our brain that it's safe to think a certain way. When we get to that place where we begin to really love ourselves, and I'm going to use the word unconditionally, and I feel like that word is overused. So lately I've been trying to say without conditions, like there are no conditions to how I love myself, meaning that I love myself no matter what. And so when we get to that place and we start to see that, then those no matter what's, those conditions, then we can see them for what they really are. Oh, I used to only love myself if I looked this certain way, or I used to only love myself if I did the dishes or cooked appropriate dinners or made enough money, right? We loved ourselves with conditions, and it can go much deeper to that. Those are just vague examples. Well, then when it comes to forgiveness, we can look at people and say, well, they're dealing with their own I only love myself if. And so when we begin to see that we've been living based on a set of patterns and conditions that we believe to be true, they've become our identity. And when we can see that clearly, where we used to love ourselves based on those conditions, then we can go back and say, everybody else is doing exactly the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. So we can begin to forgive ourselves for how we used to be based on the fact that we used to only love ourselves with conditions. And then we can say, well, this person over here, they harmed me, or they did me wrong, or they did something wrong. And that was based on their own set of conditionings, their own belief system, their own. We begin to see the whole picture clearly for what it is. And I remember when I was going through this process, I went through this with my father, where, I grew up in a constant state of fear. And I had a lot of anger towards him over the years. And so when I began this practice of self-love, it was I have to not only forgive myself for the way that I've acted based on what I believe to be true, but now I have to forgive my father, understanding that he acted on and reacted to and was living according to the conditions that he had believed based on his childhood, based on his raising, based on all of his things. And I read in Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life, which was so impactful for me during this time of forgiveness, where she said, visualize this person as a loveless child. And when I could do that, when I could see him in that way as a loveless child, then I could truly not only forgive myself, but forgive him. I didn't have to go to him. I didn't have to share anything with him. He didn't have to offer me forgiveness. I could just forgive because I could truly see him without love. So the process of forgiveness really comes from a place of being in an energy of love, love without conditions, unconditional love. And so we first have to begin this process of getting there ourselves. And now I can look at my dad and I can actually choose to love him unconditionally, just knowing that he was this loveless child, right? Without love. And so the things that he did came from a place of fear. They didn't come from a place of love. So we can forgive ourselves for the things that we've done when we acted or reacted out of a place of fear instead of out of a place of love. And then moving forward, we're empowered to say, now I get to choose to act or react or live or operate from a place of love instead of a place of fear. And anything in my past or anything that I may do now or anything I may do in the future that is coming from a place of fear, I'm going to forgive myself for, because it's an unconscious, right? And that's where that awareness comes in. I have to have the awareness of where I'm operating from, where other people are operating from. When we have the awareness of where we're operating from and where other people are operating from, then we can be in that unconditional love. And then forgiveness is it's just like taking a breath. It's just a thing that we do because we understand and we're operating from unconditional love.
Yeah. So I would add to that every action is either an expression of love or a plea for love. Yes. And if you look at someone's behavior, anyone's behavior that displeases you and you as love, then suddenly you wouldn't be angry anymore. You wouldn't be hurt anymore. You wouldn't be upset anymore. You would be able to separate the behavior from the person and
Yes.
understand that I love this person. I don't have to love what they did, and I don't have to approve of what they did, but I am expanded as a human being by loving that person regardless of whatever actions are connected with that. And that is such a free feeling. It's like, I don't ever have to judge. I don't ever have to be angry. I don't ever have to be upset. I don't ever have to have expectations.
Right.
And when we as humans are able to live our lives without expectation and accepting what comes along with joy and looking for the good in every event and every person and every thing that happens in our lives, then suddenly we're free and dream of love that's everywhere. That's a part of our abundance. It's really, really awesome. All right. So I imagine that a lot of the people who are watching this or will be watching this video, I really can't tell who's here right now. That part of the technology is failing me. But there are a lot of people who are doing great in their lives as far as their work and their money and their careers are fulfilling, but they have not found their soulmate, that person to share their lives with. And I have systems of that I teach for people to start to manifest this dreamed of soulmate, life mate, enlightenment partner in their lives. But I'm interested to hear how you work with students, clients who are in this place of looking for love in all the wrong places.
It's the same, honestly. It's the same as doing work for ourselves. It's first identifying what we want. And then we have to become that. And you and I talked about this before when we were on the phone about we think that we should be able to attract what we want, when the reality is that we're always attracting what we are. So if we make this long list of all of these things that I'm searching for in a soulmate, then we have to go within ourselves and look at ourselves and say, am I being that? Am I doing that for myself? So, a lot of times we want a man to be the things that we women list out, we want him. Are we doing that for ourselves? Mm-hmm. And are we working towards becoming that? And if we're not, then we're not going to be a match for that soulmate. So it actually requires us to go in and do our own self-work in order to be able to get to a place where we can attract what we desire. And I think that you have to be very intentional about what you want. If you're not intentional about what you want, then that's where all the wrong places, all the wrong people, all the wrong things. I never like to look at situations, though, ever. I never look at situations as being wrong or that was a mistake. It was a lesson. So let's say you do attract somebody into your life that you think in the beginning, oh, this is exactly what I wanted. And then you begin to see, oh, this isn't exactly what I want. Say thank you, because what's happening is this is actually showing you what you do want and what you don't want. So it may take people coming into our lives to help us get really clear on what it is that we want and what it is that we don't want. And I've done this in my own life. I'm a divorced mom and I'm trying to date, and I wish I had all the answers, but here's what I'll tell you is I'm grateful for every opportunity that I get to meet somebody. And my time is very valuable. So I don't give a whole lot of time to somebody that I don't feel like is worthy of my time. But they always are showing me what I do want or what I don't want. So after maybe dating somebody, I might go back and write in my journal, oh, I don't want this, And I can reflect in my own life, where in my life is this happening? Where in my life is this showing up for me? Where can I work on improving this in my life? So everybody we meet is a mirror for us. We get to choose to look at them and say, what can I take away from this? What can I learn from this? How can I use this to better myself? And it's self-work. And so it's not about going out and looking for, it's about going within and working on us. And when we can just stay focused and stay in a state of surrender, knowing that as long as I continue to do my work, somebody else is out there doing their work too, and we'll meet when the timing is perfect. Again, it goes back to what you just said a minute ago about not having expectations. It's about releasing expectations, releasing any attachments to outcomes, and just going out. If you're going out on dates, just going out and saying, I'm trusting that even if this isn't the one, this is going to show me something that I need to see that I would not see without this experience. And so it just releases attachment. It releases a need for it to be the one. It gives you freedom for you to just authentically show up and just experience life. Just be in the moment and enjoy the moment and enjoy being in somebody else's presence without any attachments, because a lot of times we women, we want it now, right? We want relationships, and
right.
And so many people settle, and that doesn't serve us. That doesn't serve our children. That doesn't serve the person we're settling for. So don't settle. Literally look at this person in front of you and say, what are they teaching me that I can work on me, that I can love myself a little bit more, and just trust the process.
Awesome. Yeah, you actually, I was planning to ask you, but you already answered it. In my work, the very biggest thing that we do, the first thing, is to create a vision of what it is that we want. And in every area, and 9 times out of 10, people get stuck. They're like, oh, they're afraid to dream the wrong thing, that they feel like they're making a commitment to this dream, to this vision. And in a soulmate, that is even scarier. I'm like, oh no, what if I make up my dream wrong and he shows up wrong? But what you have said is that your dream is evolving, and you dream and create your vision of who you want to be, how you want your life to be, who you want to be with the information that you have now. And then you go out in the world and you say, thank you for this new information that I got. I just discovered that this is how my dream really should look. I need to tweak this in this way and tweak that in that way. And so I have, a part of the reason for this is to get the word out for a class that I have that is coming up starting on July the 5th. And we only have like less than a week to complete enrollment in that. So provide a place for everybody that's listening, watching this, to go for the level of structure and support that you want. Rachel has some Facebook groups that we're going to provide a link for. I have a brand new Facebook group called Be Happy First Together that we've just started, that's in its infancy. We have some subscription programs and some classes, and I have cleared off a lot of space on my calendar for the next week for free strategy sessions to help you figure out what it is that is the next best step for you to fall in love with your life. So come back and look at all those links as soon as we're through broadcasting. I thought that I had these ready to just stick on there, but I don't. So I will have to come back for that and do that. So, and Rachel, I have all of your links. I'll provide those as well. So I'm so grateful for the connection that I have with you, and the awesome heartfelt insight that you offer me and our listeners and all the people in our tribe, and just very, very grateful for you.
Thank you. I feel the same way. And, just the last thing I really want to share is your vision for your life is so possible. But the one thing that you have to consistently do is be very, very clear on who you are right now and what steps you need to take to get to the next step of who you want to become, because you cannot fall in love. You cannot fall in love with your life in the current state you're in right now. You have to make some changes, and changes are painful. So please reach out, work with someone, find somebody that you really identify with and get help, because it's possible. And, I don't know about you, but I've worked with, since I started this process, I've never not had a coach. I've always had a coach that I've worked with, because I don't know what I don't know. And if I want to grow, I need somebody who's been there, who's done that, who can show me the way. And so I advise that to everybody. You know, every coaching team or sports team has a coach because they need somebody to guide them. Find somebody who's already done it, who's maybe living the life you want to live, and then ask them for support. And that's what you're providing. So I'm so grateful for you. We need more people like you doing what we're doing, because there are more people out there who need help than there are coaches, healers, people who are providing the help.
Who can do it, right? It's absolutely true. I'm the same way. I will never be without a coach again, because we can't see from within the frame.
Yes.
The coach can look outside, and this is what you cannot see, and this is how I can help you. And yeah, it's priceless. I will always have a coach forever, evermore. Several of them, actually.
Yeah.
I've kind of scheming to get you to be my fitness coach and my rock climbing instructor. So
we're going to do some rock climbing.
We are going to do some rock climbing.
I'm excited about that.
Me too.
When can we
go? Meet halfway. Yeah, we'll figure that out. All right, Rachel, thank you so much for being here with me. And thank you all for joining. Say hello, share, help us get the word out about all of these awesome, many of them free opportunities to get support and structure in building a life that you can really, really fall in love with. So until next time.
Thank you so much.
Bye. See you later. Bye.